It was supposed to be a peaceful weekend. Mark and Lisa, worn out from city life, had rented a remote cabin deep in the woods for some much-needed rest. The cabin was rustic but charming, nestled by a tranquil lake and surrounded by dense, towering trees. It seemed perfect, a haven far from the chaos of urban living. But as night fell, tranquility turned to terror. The first sign was subtle. A strange hush fell over the forest, an unnatural silence that made the couple uneasy. As they settled in for the evening, a soft scraping sound echoed from outside. Mark dismissed it as a raccoon or some other woodland creature. However, the sound persisted, growing louder and more deliberate, as if something was scratching to be let in. "Did you hear that?" Lisa whispered, her voice tinged with fear. Mark nodded, grabbing a flashlight. "It's probably nothing," he reassured her, though his gut said otherwise. He opened the door and shone the beam into the night. The trees cast long, eerie shadows, but the light revealed nothing unusual. Just as he was about to close the door, Mark saw movement out of the corner of his eye, a flash of something pale and quick. His heart skipped a beat. He strained his eyes, but whatever it was had vanished into the forest. Shaken, he locked the door and returned to Lisa, forcing a smile. "It's fine, probably just an animal." They tried to relax, but the atmosphere had changed. The cabin felt less like a cozy retreat and more like a trap. As they prepared for bed, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over Lisa. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Mark tried to brush off her fears, but he felt it too, a presence, lurking just out of sight. In the dead of night, Lisa awoke with a start. The air was thick with a suffocating silence. Then she heard a low, guttural growl coming from inside the cabin. Her breath caught in her throat as she glanced around. There, at the foot of the bed, stood a figure, tall, gaunt, with skin as pale as the moon. It was hairless, with unnaturally long limbs and fingers ending in sharp claws. Its eyes were the worst part, deep, black voids that seemed to pierce through her soul. The creature smiled, its mouth stretching impossibly wide, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. It was the Rake. Lisa screamed, jolting Mark awake. The creature's head snapped towards him, its smile widening. Mark grabbed the flashlight and shone it at the Rake, but the light seemed to pass through it, barely illuminating its terrifying form. In a heartbeat, the Rake lunged at them, moving with unnatural speed and grace. Mark and Lisa scrambled out of bed, the creature's claws swiping inches from their faces. They dashed for the bedroom door, slamming it shut behind them. The Rake let out a blood-curdling screech, a sound that seemed to reverberate through their bones. They could hear it scratching at the door, trying to get in. Panicked, they rushed to the front door, only to find it wide open. The air outside was cold and still, but there was no time to think. They bolted to the car, Mark fumbling with the keys. Behind them, they heard the door of the cabin crash open. Lisa dared a glance back and saw the Rake, its eyes locked onto her, its grin twisted and monstrous. She let out a sob of terror, urging Mark to hurry. Finally, the car roared to life, and they sped down the dirt road. The Rake stood in the driveway, watching them go, its eyes gleaming in the darkness. As they drove away, the headlights caught the creature's form one last time, standing motionless, its eyes reflecting the light like a predator's. It raised a clawed hand in a slow, mocking wave. The couple never spoke of that night again. The memory of the Rake haunted them, a specter of the terror they had barely escaped. Even in the safety of their home, they couldn't shake the feeling that it was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike.